Hello, patrons. Hope you're well. Welcome to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community. It's a Friday deadline tomorrow, and I'm on wildcard, and I can't be doing two streams live and to the public on a Friday. So, guess what? You've got Ask James today instead. Obviously, you've got differential shows still to come on Patreon tomorrow, and we've got our pod with Ed and Jack on Leeds and Burnley that will go out publicly to everyone tomorrow morning, quite early. Deadline stream is 5:30 p.m. UK time tomorrow. I've obviously got a very big night ahead of me. Nerves have just kind of started to kick in a little bit. To timestamp this, it is just gone 1:05 on Thursday, May the 1st. As usual, I'll answer the patrons' questions in order of submission. For those who are joining me live, very, very grateful for your questions. Otherwise, I'd be here talking to a fucking wall. Probably just about Tottenham. So do not hesitate to put more questions in the chat if you're joining in live, guys. Nothing specific for me to announce, so let's get into these. And I will cover all the questions. Hasselbank is win. Says, afternoon, James. As someone who does European aways, what's your thoughts on the treatment of away fans, netting, perspex glass, riot police? The away ends are horrendous experience. Compare it to the UK, and away fans have a completely different experience for European games. Does Hazel still affect how these Euro clubs think? Separate topic. Isn't it time they moved the away end at St James's Park? Okay, the last bit's the shorter bits. We'll cover that first. So at Newcastle, the fans are somewhat in the gods, as we know. And should Sunderland come up, I believe that's probably going to be the case at Sunderland as well. It's not like some sort of northeast exclusion zone where this has to happen. I certainly know at Newcastle it's based on security grounds, is the reason why. There's something probably we saw Newcastle play at Sunderland in the FA Cup third round. Was that this season or last season? I can't recall, but obviously Newcastle had that end at Sunderland, and the away fans are normally right at the top of that. So to be honest, that's kind of on the other side of where you'd approach the stadium, so that feels a little bit unusual at Sunderland. But the argument at Newcastle is it's the only safe place for the fans to go in the ground. Now, for the majority of us, going to Newcastle was a pretty pleasant experience. It's a pretty safe one to be in and around the city, so I kind of don't buy into that particularly. But that's the reason that Newcastle given at the moment is security grounds. I don't think that's going to be forced to be changed anytime soon because they've got away with it at the moment. I don't mind being up there, actually, by the way. I'd rather be up in the gods up there than the row 6 I've got at London Stadium at row 9 I've got a London Stadium on Sunday, which is obviously very low. There is obviously a lot of speculation on Newcastle that they're going to build a new stadium, which is behind currently where the away fans would go in the ground and in the park behind, and therefore it would certainly change because they would have to build the stadium and say, okay, you're going to put away fans in a lower tier. That's the ruling that's in the Premier League handbook, is that away fans should have some form of positioning by the side of the pitch. So that would probably change at a new stadium. I don't think it's going to change at St James's Park. I think from that they're arguing it's on security. And if they believe it's a risk to put the away fans anywhere else, then they will. It's not about where they are in the ground so much, although segregation could be a problem based on the way those stands are potentially built. I think it's more about the entrance and the exit from the stadium is where I think their argument is. On away fans in Europe, what I would add is the experience is very different depending on where you go. So my experience at the 4 stadiums I've been to in Germany, so that's Dortmund, Munich, Leverkusen and Frankfurt, has been outstanding. My experience at Frankfurt last week was outstanding. I was row 2 upper tier. If I had that position in anywhere in Spain, I've got to look through a perspex glass. Germany, didn't have to look through nothing. Yes, a little bit of netting in the lower tiers, and there was obviously fencing separating the fans in the lower tier as well. The netting, I think it's a nonsense. It's not going to really stop anything. If someone wants to throw a coin, it's still going to go through netting. So I don't really ever particularly understand that. And that's the most likely object to get thrown. It depends where you go. So Germany, largely good experience. In the Netherlands, Ajax was big perspex glass, and you feel kind of penned in. There wasn't that at Alkmaar, but you do feel very penned in. You might remember from the away days video I took that there were certain vantage points in that stadium in Alkmaar that you could not have seen half the pitch based on where your seat was. You would have had to move. And Tottenham certainly didn't sell any restricted tickets. Mind you, there was plenty that didn't turn up by the looks of it, just wanted their loyalty points. Italy, Milan has been perspex glass. Trying to think where else I've been, but pretty much everywhere has the netting. But I take your viewpoint that, yeah, these clubs come to England and there isn't any restriction. It was notable at the Emirates the other night that they seem to have the first couple of rows of the away end taped off, and there seems to be a little bit of a bigger separation between the away fans and the home fans. But in terms of view of the pitch, I mean, it's shit at the Emirates anyway, but the view of the pitch was unobstructed, I would guess. So, yeah, we do get treated differently. I certainly wouldn't say it's anything to do with what happened in Hazel in 1985, I think that was, I want to say. Purely because I think it's more about where you go. So it's not like these perspex glasses don't just come up just for English fans in Spain. Like, they're there for Spanish fans who travel. They're there for everybody who travel. So it's very much dependent on the location of where you go, ultimately. So in Germany, I think the way I spoke about the police on Tottenham the other week in Germany, you could have a chat with them, it's fine and stuff. They just want to keep you safe. They don't want trouble. They're kind of happy to let you do your thing, but they're looking after you and they don't want you to kick off. Whereas certain places, like I've spoken about Barcelona in the past, rocking up to get in the ground in the Camp Nou, one of the most iconic stadiums in the world, and getting fucking guns pointed at us. Like, it's fucking what the fuck, man? You haven't even done anything. That's what you're getting going into a football stadium. I was with my mum, man. The fuck? It's so weird. So, I mean, that's just antagonizes people in the first place. What are you pointing a gun at me for? I'm going to a football match. Like, it's madness. You wouldn't get that in Germany. The police can be a bit heavy-handed in Italy, but I think, just shut up and you'll be all right in Italy, generally speaking, has been my experiences from my couple of trips to the San Siro. I would love to have gone to the Olimpico in Rome. I'm not going to Norway either. So it does ultimately depend where you're going. Spain's the worst for it. Said wasn't not great experience in terms of the perspex glass in the Netherlands, but if you were far enough back, that wasn't a problem. Even I was just far enough back in Amsterdam. I don't know if I ever told you about that though, where I was able to look over it, so it wasn't blocking my viewpoint of the greatest game of all time that evening. So it depends where you go. Spain's bad, Germany's great. That's the kind of the best example I can give at the moment. I don't think it's relatable to what's happened with English fans necessarily in the past. It's more a home viewpoint on just how you treat away fans as a general. I think it's disgusting, by the way, that you pay all that money and you might have a perspex glass in front of your face. It's madness. I don't know what can be done about it, truthfully. Sponsored by Reality says, hi James, who do you think needs to win Europa League more, Manchester United or Spurs? Thanks. You've got personal bias when you're asking me that question. I think the answer is us. I think the desperation for a trophy for us is greater than Manchester United's, having won the FA Cup only last season. I also think that with United and Amorim, it's very clear what's happening next. He will be in charge. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They're at the start of a process. You can already see from speculation in the press that they want to be active. They probably are going to have to sell if they don't win that trophy. Winning that trophy is going to give them a lot more power in the market, but it still looks like they'll get Cunha and will go for players like Delap and other targets as well. Whereas for Tottenham, the injection of money will be huge for the immediate transfer window coming up. And also, very importantly, it may ultimately decide what manager we have next year. I don't think it's going to be Ange either way. But if you're in the Champions League, that's a very different caliber of manager you can attract to, we finished 17th this year. It's very different, isn't it? So even from that perspective, the biggest thing of all might be the implication for what sort of manager Tottenham have next season. So I think it's us. But I also understand that Manchester United's need for trophies, just generally, is greater. There is more pressure on Manchester United to deliver trophies. So I understand that argument, the sentiment as well. So you could make the case either way. Milan Rizavi says, hello, James. Are we expecting the announcement of fixtures this week? Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'll tell you what I know. And it's only what you should all know at this point. So, Aaron, and this stays between us, has been discussed on Slack. Aaron Dino is very well connected with Palace and has had information on fixtures in the past. Told us sort of circa 48 hours ago that the plan for Palace and Wolves is the Tuesday after the FA Cup final, so would stay in game week 37. We also know, and I know because I've had DMs with him as well from Rockstar, that Sky had the intention to show a game on the Thursday in game week 37. He now has hinted elsewhere and told me that Sky want a game on the Tuesday. So you would think that's Man City v Bournemouth on the Tuesday. Now, Sky wanting and Sky having are two different things. You must understand the difference. Because it could very easily be the Tuesday before in game week 36. My instinct is that's what will happen now. That seems to be the information, that those fixtures will stay in game week 37. That's what we have to work on at this moment. On Villa Tottenham, I expect the request that Tottenham have got to move the fixture to be denied. I wonder if we won very comfortably tonight, if that could push further the idea of bringing the fixture forward. And there may be there may be an element of waiting to see what we do tonight, i.e., we lose 3-0 at home. It's like, you ain't going to be in the final anyway. It stays on the Sunday night, right? And I think it will stay on the Sunday night in game week 37 in any case. Common sense, I think, would prevail that Villa would still have a 5-day gap from their Saturday fixture to the Thursday. We would have a 4-day gap and then a 6-day gap before the final. Common sense in any other European league, as I tweeted on Sunday, would prevail where the fixture would get brought forward. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case here. In terms of the announcement of the timing, yeah, I would expect it at any point. There is possibly an element with the Tottenham game that there's, okay, let's see what happens tonight in case one side has a clear advantage over the other. Might have a little bit of an influence. There is the possibility that we're not going to know by Friday. That is fucking insane. Can we understand that the Tuesday, the potential date for Man City versus Bournemouth to take place in game week 36 is now 12 days away? For those of you not familiar with geography in the UK, Bournemouth to Manchester City is not round the fucking corner. And there's plenty of fans will travel from far and away for City as well these days. So that each 12 days away for the potential of game week 36. With each passing hour, the potential for a fixture in game week 36 becomes less and less likely, I would suggest. And the longer they wait, the more they're forced into game week 37 as well. So could get announcement today. Should get announcement by tomorrow, really, at the latest. Can I guarantee it? I don't work for the league, mate. So no, unfortunately, I can't say one way or the other. But yeah, it's silly now. If we go through tomorrow, then we're talking about wanting a game to be arranged at 10 days' notice, which is unnecessary. So at the moment, I think we should work on the basis that there'll be no doubles in game week 36. See what happens. We should know before deadline, I think. I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised if something came out straight after deadline tomorrow. FPL Don says, hi, James. I have Saka, Sarr, Marino, and Asensio. Are any of them worth keeping? Only have one free transfer. Yeah, on that basis, arguably 3 of them. Sarr is not a major headache. He will play Monday night. It's a home fixture, so that's the least priority, I think, of moving. Asensio is tough to say, isn't it? Really? I guess from here, Emery's going to pick, you would think, what's closest to his strongest team, and it's debatable whether Asensio is part of that or not. I don't think the Rashford injury has any impact on his minutes. I think the beneficiary from that is obviously Ollie Watkins. No guarantee he starts. Ordinarily, a 12:30 kickoff might have been useful for you for some team information, but with a Friday deadline, that's not going to help you. I don't think Saka starts. He may have to get for 120 minutes on Wednesday. I hope he fucking doesn't. I hope they take him off with half hour to go because it's long done. They're already long out. Marino, Clates seemed to think yesterday that he'd probably go back to playing the 9 position against PSG. That's going to be 50-50 whether he starts as well, really. Maybe 60-40 plus. So it's probably the Arsenal move on first. Bumo's going to be absolutely screaming at you unless that's the one other midfielder that you've got. If it is, then Jared Bowen should be screaming at you as well. It's probably next best in line, I think. So Sarr is not a problem at the moment. Asensio is probably the next I'd keep as it stands. I mean, if you can't get to Bumo or Bowen from any of the others, it's cut Saka, as far as I'm concerned. And remember also, obviously, Arsenal do go to Liverpool in 36. Milan says, still have the triple captainship if the double game week doesn't happen, which I think is unlikely. Which single do you think are in contention? I'm on game week 35 wildcard. It is probably target relegated teams and Spurs and United. Yeah, I said on Monday's podcast, Ollie Watkins is the best captain in game week 36 or game week 37, but I just don't know which one yet. And that's definitely an option. I mean, if Watkins was to play a hypothetical Tottenham reserve team in game week 37, that is the best captaincy left of any week. So it's possibly that, mate. Game week 38 is your get out. You know, punt people like Saka, Isak, Evan Nilsson maybe for final day. Mo as well with the home game against Palace. That's the best of what he's got left. 36, Marmoush at Southampton. Judging by Pep's comments this morning, Haaland is not likely to be involved tomorrow night, and therefore I don't think he starts at Southampton in 36. But that might be an impact to Marmoush's minutes in that week, so that's a little bit off-putting. Remember, they will want to get Haaland fit because they've got the Club World Cup in the summer. So if you'd ask me right now, I'd say as it stands, based on projections, it's Watkins in 37, mate. But you can obviously change with that, right? You're not stuck to that if you want to go something different. The get out, because I don't think there are huge alternatives in 37 specifically that are great from a captaincy perspective, although Cole Palmer against Manchester United could be another one. 38 is your get out, isn't it? Just go with whoever you think is most likely to go mental in game week 38. FPL Don says, just listening to the great clash of the correspondence with Mark, does him doing this mean Planet FPL is greater than Black Box? It is a little bit amusing, isn't it? That Mark has had to retire from Black Box, yet he can still do Planet FPL. It's quite something. I hope it came out well, because particularly for this one, the way it was sold, because Mark has started his new job this week. And that's why we ended up, by the way, with having to split the podcast into 2 halves. We were meant to record Monday night and release the podcast on Tuesday. Stuff happened for Mark that meant we had to change that. And we couldn't reschedule to a time that was suitable for all 3 of us. Hence the resolution to split the pod into 2 halves. Mark, as it stands, is most likely to continue as our Nottingham Forest correspondent next season. Mark had said to them that, and they said to him it was absolutely fine if he continued to cover Nottingham Forest, but couldn't do FPL content as a conflict of interest, basically. And he'd also said to them that because he was already booked in to do this week with Tom with me, so he'd said, look, I've got a commitment. And he said, that's fine. And he's still able to play the game next year and all these things, but he can't do content on it because there's too many conflictions. He might know certain things potentially, but particularly say if they had you have to do a mystery trip again, Mark will probably know what it's going to end up being, right? And then that it puts him in an awkward position. So the only thing Mark said to me before we started yesterday Mark said, you can't ask me shit about things like strategy and fixture movements and double game weeks and stuff like that. And I said, that's fine. And Mark said, like, you can even ask me about Forest FPL assets. So I said, but I said to him, the best thing to do at the moment is I will lace questions, because what Mark said to them was he wants to go back and say, look, listen to this. And if they say to him, look, this isn't okay, you can't do this, then he'll obviously have to stop. But Mark really wants to carry on as the Forest correspondent. So I said to Mark, well, look, I don't have to say to you like, oh, Milenkovic versus Williams for FPL. We can have a conversation about the two players and people can probably draw their own fucking conclusions from what we discuss, right? And I said to Mark, if I still need a goal from a corner, is Milenkovic my guy? And he was like, yeah, of course. So there's ways around it without even mentioning FPL. And I never mentioned the three letters until Mark did, right? So, and I said to Mark, okay, you've said FPL now, right? Open water. So yeah, it looks like Mark will be able to continue. The feedback I've had from some of you guys is that you'd very much want Mark to continue, even if we couldn't directly talk FPL. But it sounds like we can still talk to Mark about FPL directly, as long as it's about Nottingham Forest assets. And it doesn't include, well, if this fixture goes here and you might have a double game week, we wouldn't be able to have that sort of conversation with him. So I hope it came out well today, and it sounds like you should be able to continue. And yeah, I'm the only FPL content that can have the Godfather Mark Southerns on his podcast, so it's worked out quite well for us. There is a chance that they may say to him, you can't continue, but we think it will be all right. So at the moment, we're working on the basis Mark will still be with us next season. Jonathan Nagy says, afternoon, James. Sorry for already covered, but score predictions for both semi-final ties tonight. 3-0 Chelsea and 1-1 Manchester United. Is there another one, John? You said both. I know what you meant. I do think Chelsea probably go and piss all over them tonight, although that's an Astro pitch as well. And apparently both teams have complained about the condition of the pitch in Sweden, which I wish we knew when Clayton and I was covering Jurgen yesterday on the podcast. We have to think we're going to win tonight, John. That's not an arrogant sentiment. A lot's been made about the difficulties for the conditions for us out there. With the weather and the Astro pitch, etc. We should be making something about the fact that tonight's game's on grass and it's fucking hot here. I'm in shorts at the moment. It is absolutely blazing. That should play into our hands. We're going to have more of the ball anyway. I think that's certainty. We also know that they've got some key players suspended. They've also got some doubts with injuries defensively as well. They may suddenly be without 4 or 5 of their first choice 11 on top of what they are already. So it's a disaster not to win tonight, John. Let's be really real and blunt about it. I don't think Tottenham should be settling at any point tonight. At any point. I don't think if it's 4-0, I don't think we should be settling for it. Danny said on Slack, Danny McDonald says, what score would you be comfortable with that you do it? I was like 8-0. Obviously, 4 win by 4 would be incredible. There's no guarantee of winning at all. I want a 3-goal advantage, really, I think. I'd be content with 2. I don't think we should turn our nose up at going there with a lead. But we should be targeting more than that tonight. But the flip is, it doesn't mean that if we don't win tonight, it doesn't mean we're out, right? We'll be capable of getting a result next week as well. But yeah, I think target really realistically is 3-goal advantage. I will go 2-0, John. That's what I'll go for as a prediction tonight. Chris Green says, hi James, generally, how would you rank transferring Bumo, Bowen and Visser this week with one free transfer? And would you consider taking hits for either of the other two? What you're selling here, Chris, is obviously relevant to that. So in the case of the earlier question with people like Asensio and stuff like that, yeah, be considered, but it's not worth it if Asensio starts, for example, right? You could certainly make the case though that with Arsenal going to Liverpool next week with the Saka Marino options, yeah, maybe it should be. I think what's interesting about this, I think it's the Brentford assets are most important because I think their fixtures are better as an overview. It's difficult to say how difficult West Ham's game at Manchester United next Sunday will or won't be at this stage. Forest in 37 is obviously not great for the offensive guys. And first and foremost, Brentford's next two looks great. We are expecting a rotated Manchester United on Sunday. I think I'm likely to captain Boomer, I think. And then Ipswich next week. That first two's great. That can then chain into something else. I speak on the midweek dilemma with Andy Martin today about, even something like Visser to Watkins in 37. So it feels like them, but also it feels like if you are going Jared Bowen, don't not fucking get him for Tottenham Hotspur at home, right? It's got to be now as well. I think the priority is Boomer. I think because there are other better forward options, Bowen over Visser would be my take. Like, Bowen and Boomer are absolute shoo-ins for me on wildcard. Visser is not. And that's because within the forward department, there is Marmoush, there might be a return in Haaland next week, there is Watkins, there is Isak, there are others as well. Cunha is still pretty reasonable as long as you don't mind the Man City game this week, for example. Chris Wood, sorry, is another one, right? There's more forward options. Midfield, not so much at the moment. So Bumo, Bowen, Visser would be my order of preference, mate. Whether you take hits for second player Bowen, I think it's got to be something pretty weak for it to be a hit, actually. I don't think West Ham Tottenham will be particular high scoring on Sunday, but who knows? Tonight might go a certain way. We might pick up injuries, and Ange might say after the game tonight, look, I'm going to tell you honestly, we're going to change the whole team on Sunday. Right, that changes the game, doesn't it? I don't think it will quite be that, though. Chris says, if context helps, looking at Saka, Sarr, Mateta, Isak on the chopping block. So yeah, wouldn't bother with selling Mateta or Isak at this moment. It's fine. Like, selling one of them two for Visser for a hit is not on. I wouldn't stress about Sarr. So yeah, would I go like Sarr to Bowen for a hit? No, mate. Mo says, hi James, do you think Haaland starts in 36? I can include him in wildcard, bench him this week and have him ready next week for Saints. My instinct, as I just said, Mo, is no. And as per the discussion with Andy, which is available for you now, we discussed with Andy the idea of potential, and we'd recorded this before Pep's presser this morning, said that we need to look at a draft with Haaland in it, because what if tomorrow night it's like, fuck, he's playing, like panic, and no one else will be able to get there. No one else will be able to get there. So it's like in, captain, bang, dum, boom, done. And that opportunity may line up again in 36, but to know now that if we think he'll start when he hasn't trained for 6 weeks, rushing for Southampton away? No, I don't think so. Though he's not a player that's been used as a substitute often, I'd certainly acknowledge that. I think probably no at this moment. So what me and Andy kind of concluded was you can't go him unless he's in that team tomorrow night on wildcard. So it's a strong no for me. There's too many other good forward options, Mo. Too many other good forward options. Your best bet is to leave money in the bank so you can go there. So set it to go Isak to Haaland next week and leave the money in the bank to make it happen if you want to. I fail to see where the right thing to do here at the moment is to spend all the money on the wild card, unless I get a confirmation that Kevin De Bruyne's starting tomorrow night, and then that changes the game. But if I put Kevin De Bruyne in my squad, I'm also potentially blocking me off from getting Haaland next week. It's a no from me, mate. Ed's in. Rhino's got a brilliant Planet FPL debut out tomorrow. This afternoon, no question. Just thanks for keeping a straight face. when Andy said Roden will be strong enough. Yeah, look, we let Andy have his moment, innit? Actually, in seriousness, I think Joe Roden is fine for Leeds. That if you want to be a high-line, ball-orientated team next year, you're probably going to want something better. But you know the translation from Championship to Premier League is going to be tough. And I think in terms of his penalty box defending, I think Joe's absolutely fine. Joe showed that when he was with us. Joe's problem is, and he had one thing, and it always stuck with me, and it may have developed. I've not watched him recently. But he used to control the ball and he used to look down at his feet before then doing anything else. Now, most humans will do that. It's quite normal. I've controlled the ball. I look down. I double check where it is. Most top level footballers don't need to do it because their first touch from centre back is out in front of them and they're carrying away. So he'd receive a pass and the ball stuck under him. He's looking down at it. Right, then he can't see where he's being pressed from. I hope that side of him develops. Otherwise, he get fucking eaten alive. Yeah. Rhino says he's done very well, by the way, but I'm under no illusion how much harder the Prem is. Yeah, of course. But I think penalty box defending be absolutely fine, mate. Milan says, following on the travelling fans in Europe, what was your experience if you came to Czech Republic to football? I think our police and clubs are still scared of the English fans for some reason. So I went to Prague in 2008. Beautiful city. Wonderful place to go. I did drink for 48 hours, mate. Pretty much. It was very different. Going back 17 years. It would have been sort of 26. I was a very different human being then. So it was a party. The stadium is not the stadium that they're playing now. It was up in a mountain at the time. And got like a taxi up there, dropped outside the stadium, went in the ground. Couldn't tell you much different than that. Ground wasn't full. Their fans were on the other side of the ground. We got held in for a bit. Never saw them. Went back into the city. Got bought champagne by a Slavia fan. True story. Couldn't speak any English, but we was in our Tottenham colours. He generally bought us a bottle of champagne. Just kept shouting Slavia at us. I swear that's true. And we hung around with him because he kept wanting to buy drinks. That's fine. So I couldn't really comment. That was it had a running track. So I couldn't give. There wasn't. There might have been perspex glass at the front. I can't remember. To tell you the truth, can't remember. It'd be there on videos. I generally can't remember. I remember them holding a tifo up at the other end with like love hearts because it was Valentine's Day. What would you do with Valentine's Day? Go to Prague. Anyway, my girlfriend at the time wasn't very happy about that. So on Valentine's Day the next year, I went to Bolton instead. Also true. Milan says, but to be honest, the treatment for away fans has been quite bad. Even when the Czech fans travel, it has been a big issue with police looking for fights and it kicking off, especially in the Prague derby where you got an intensity there that you'll understand better than I can explain. Harry Trimble says, hey James, would you do Asensio and Mateta to Bumo and Vissa from -4? Would prefer to keep Saka and hold for good fixtures 37-38. So I'm going to presume off that, Harry, you've got to sell Mateta as part of that -4. No, I think Saka is the cut. I do. Andy threw a theory out today, and I know Andy has his wild theories, but it kind of got a point that if Arsenal have sewn up second and you're looking at Southampton final day, that they go, he's a little bit of a knot and just leave him out because it's irrelevant and give him time off so he doesn't go and play for England against fucking Andorra. That is a possibility. I'd be selling Saka. If it happens, and you go, Andy said it first. Yeah, I would sell. I understand the wanting to hold him, Harry. I'd sell him. I think that's the right play here. Mateta to Vissa for a -4 is not right, in my opinion. That's not right. Chris Green says, nice one. Thanks, James. That's it then. That's the questions wrapped up. Thank you very much for those who joined in. Milan says, sounds like a typical Czech person you met, not speaking English, an alcoholic classic. He was harmless, though. He was fine. Wish me luck tonight. Big one. It's going to be, it's not every day my team plays in the European semi-final despite all the fucking shite this season, right? So I know I'm still, despite that, oh, how do you still do it, James? I know I'm still pretty blessed, really, right, to be in this position, and it's an unusual one because we don't play many semi-finals where we're favourites. Never mind a European semi-final where we're favourites. So, but I think that the crowd understand they've got a big role to play tonight. So hopefully the team just needs to start well, and the support will be good tonight. Guys, thank you as always for your support. Welcome to May differential show. I'll get out for your sort of lunchtime tomorrow for the advanced tiers team news stream. Will be 3 o'clock, and then I'll be running home then to do the deadline stream. As always, guys, thank you very much. For the benefit of those listening back to the audio cue music, please, man child.